There is a version of this story that plays well in the movies. Columns of M1 Abrams tanks rolling across open desert. Marine infantry stacking up on doorways in the streets of Tehran. A flag raised somewhere iconic. Mission accomplished. It is a satisfying image. It is also a fantasy so detached from military reality that no serious planner in the Pentagon, not one, has ever put it on the table. Because the moment you look at a map of Iran, the fantasy dissolves. What you see instead is a country the size of Western Europe. A country ringed by some of the most formidable mountain terrain on Earth. A country with a population of 90 million people, a professional military hardened by decades of preparation for exactly this scenario, and a 2,500-year history of outlasting every foreign power that ever tried to subjugate it, from Alexander the Great to the British Empire. Operation Epic Fury was launched from the air. It will be fought from the air, and it will end from the air. Not because American ground forces lack the courage or capability to fight, but because a ground invasion of Iran is not a military option. It is a military catastrophe with a very long countdown. Here is why. Start with the basics. Iran is 636,000 square miles. Iraq, the country that consumed the United States military for nearly a decade, is 168,000. You could fit Iraq into Iran almost 4 times. The distances involved in any ground campaign are not comparable to any American military experience since the Second World War. Now add terrain. The western and northwestern borders, the natural approach routes from Iraq and Turkey, are dominated by the Zagros mountain range. 1,500 kilometers of jagged, high-altitude terrain stretching from the Turkish border to the Strait of Hormuz. Peaks reaching 4,500 meters. Passes that are defensible by a single battalion against a division. Natural choke points that have stopped armies for millennia, and that the IRGC has spent 40 years studying with defensive positions, ammunition caches, and pre-registered artillery. To the north, the Alborz Range, including Mount Damavand at 5,600 meters, the highest peak in the Middle East, forms a second wall between the Caspian coast and the Iranian interior. To the east, the Dasht-e Kavr and Dasht-e Lut salt deserts, 2 of the most inhospitable environments on the planet, where summer temperatures exceed 70 degrees Celsius at the surface. There is no easy axis of advance into Iran. Every route is a funnel. Every funnel is a kill zone. Now consider logistics. The U.S. military burns roughly 500,000 gallons of fuel per day during high-tempo ground operations. Every drop of that fuel, every artillery shell, every spare part, every meal, has to travel through a supply chain stretching back hundreds of miles across terrain that a determined insurgency can interdict at will. In Iraq, the supply chain ran through Kuwait, a cooperative neighbor with a functioning port system. Against Iran, the options are Kuwait again, or Turkey, or the Gulf. All of them exposed, all of them vulnerable, all of them politically fraught in ways that would make the 2003 coalition look simple. Generals talk about logistics the way poets talk about love, obsessively and with a sense that most people don't fully appreciate the stakes. In Iran, the logistics problem alone would define the campaign before the first shot was fired. Here is a lesson the United States has learned, in blood and treasure, twice in the last quarter century. Defeating a conventional military is not the hard part. The hard part starts the morning after. In 2003, the U.S. military destroyed the Iraqi army in 21 days. The insurgency that followed consumed 4,500 American lives, cost over $2 trillion, and lasted the better part of 2 decades. Iraq is a country of 40 million people with a military that folded under air pressure and armored assault. Iran is a country of 90 million, more than twice as large, with a military culture built around exactly the kind of asymmetric, post-conventional warfare that bled American forces in Fallujah and Mosul. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps was not designed to fight the U.S. military in a conventional engagement and win. It was designed to survive a conventional defeat and make the occupation cost more than any democracy is willing to pay. It has proxy networks, prepositioned weapons caches, decentralized command structures, and 40 years of doctrine built around the single scenario of absorbing American firepower and transforming it into a generational insurgency. Then there is Tehran. Tehran is a metropolitan area of over 15 million people, one of the largest cities in the world, built across multiple valleys and ridges at altitude, with a dense urban fabric, a subway system, and a civilian population that, whatever their feelings about the Islamic Republic, would not welcome foreign soldiers in their streets. Urban warfare is the most casualty-intensive form of combat in existence. Stalingrad, Q, Fallujah, Mosul. Every major urban battle in modern history has consumed attacking forces at a rate that makes conventional casualty projections look optimistic. Military planners have estimated that clearing and holding Tehran alone would require a sustained force of over 500,000 troops, more than the entire active-duty United States Army. There is no version of that mission that ends in years. There is only a version that ends in decades, or doesn't end at all. Understanding why there is no ground invasion requires understanding what Operation Epic Fury was actually designed to achieve, and what it was deliberately designed to avoid. A ground invasion has one fundamental objective: control of territory and the population that lives on it. It requires you to be present, to hold ground, to administer, police, and rebuild. It is, by definition, an open-ended commitment that transfers the costs of the campaign from the attacker to the occupier, and the occupier's political will is always the limiting factor. Operation Epic Fury was designed to achieve the opposite. Its objectives were discrete, targetable, and time-limited. Eliminate the regime's command and control architecture, destroy its nuclear and missile infrastructure, degrade its conventional military capacity to the point where it cannot reconstitute an offensive threat, and remove the leadership figures whose authority holds the system together. None of those objectives require a single American soldier to set foot on Iranian soil. They require intelligence, precision, and sustained air power, which is exactly what was applied. The strategic logic is sometimes called decapitation, targeting the leadership nodes of a military or political system with the goal of inducing collapse or forcing a fundamental change in behavior. It is surgical in its ambition and inherently limited in its footprint. You do not need to conquer a country to change what it does. You need to destroy its capacity and willingness to do it. That is the mission, not nation-building, not occupation, not another decade of counterinsurgency in a country that has been preparing for counterinsurgency since before most of its current fighters were born. The ground invasion fantasy mistakes the method for the goal. The goal was never Tehran. The goal was the end of the threat Tehran represented. There is a deeper argument here that goes beyond Iran. The 20th century model of decisive warfare required physical occupation. You took territory, you held it, and you administered it, because territory translated directly into economic and political control. The army that held the ground held the power. That model is being systematically retired. In 2026, air supremacy combined with precision strike capability, space-based intelligence, and offensive cyber operations allows a military force to achieve effects that once required physical presence, without the costs, the casualties, and the open-ended commitments that physical presence demands. You can destroy a country's radar network from 40,000 feet. You can detonate warheads inside hardened underground facilities using weapons that did not exist a decade ago. You can sever a military's command and control through cyberspace without crossing a single physical border. You can shut down an adversary's power grid, disable its air defenses, blind its surveillance systems, and crater its runways, all before a single soldier boards a transport aircraft. The air campaign against Iran destroyed more military infrastructure in 72 hours than the Iraqi army lost in 3 weeks of conventional ground combat in 2003. It killed the supreme leader in his hardened command facility without a commando raid, without boots on the ground, without a single American casualty inside Iranian territory. That is not a limitation of Operation Epic Fury. That is its design. The question was never, why didn't they invade? The question was always, what do they need to achieve, and what is the most precise instrument available to achieve it? A ground invasion would have answered a different question, a question nobody with real authority was asking. Because the generals who plan these campaigns, the ones who have read the after-action reports from Fallujah, who have studied the Soviet experience in Afghanistan, who have done the logistics math on a 600,000 square mile theater of operations, those generals understand something that the Hollywood version of this story never shows you. The most powerful military in human history is most powerful precisely when it doesn't have to stay.